Hi everyone, my name is Natalie. Today I want to do a video that I've been wanting to do for a few weeks now. I am sure that no one has missed the recent protests in Iran that has happened in the aftermath of Mahsa Amini's death. The protests that are currently happening is not a new phenomenon. The current protests are part of a very long struggle and resistance to the Islamic State really since the revolution. And if you have consumed any form of Iranian media, whether it be in books or in movies, you have probably noticed that it's almost impossible to get around the topic of the Islamic Revolution or the Iranian Revolution as a topic because it is so significant to the shaping of people's lives. So there's this divide in the country from the before the revolution and after. And so I think it is important to consider the fact that the current protests didn't spring out of nothing. They are part of a long struggle that, even though this is particularly related to women's freedom, it is in the context of resistance to a state that has been a problem for a long time. Though the recent protests have reached a particular fervor. But I wanted to say something about the sharing of the news of the protests. I think it is definitely important to do so. It's good that it is getting attention, but I want to urge you to avoid simplistic and uncritical resharing, reposting, to not fall into racist or Islamophobic ways of talking about what is happening, which unfortunately is something I have been seeing. I don't want to discourage anyone to share these things and to participate in the resistance and in the fight to change things, but I also want to encourage thinking about how you do this. I have been thinking about doing something related to this, and so I wanted to start a reading project, which you will have seen probably from the title of this video. My plan is to read Iranian women. To read Iranian women in translation, of course, but also to read women from the diaspora, because the choice to move away from this country is, in my experience, very rarely a neutral choice. It is, in so many situations, related specifically to the revolution. That has been the case for my dad, and I'm sure I know several people with the exact same experience. And so I think the voices of the diaspora is important as well, because they do put certain things into context. So that is the plan with this reading project, is to read Iranian women, both in translation, in translation from the Persian and from the diaspora, from different countries and languages. So I wanted to start off with 3 recommendations and then talk briefly about the books that I am planning to read in the next few months, and I will talk more about these books as I read them, and possibly do individual book reviews or grouped book reviews, we'll see. But I also wanted to say that I would love to see people join in with this, to read Iranian women, to engage with what they have to say about their experience and about putting these experiences into context, into a more complex view of the country and its history. And also, I think, to not forget the richness of Iranian culture, to not just talk about all of the struggles and the negatives, to remember that there is a lot of things to celebrate with this culture as well. So that is the plan. I will start off with my recommendations. So my first recommendation is The Enlightenment of the Green Gage Tree by Farxad, and this was translated from Persian, from Farsi. This book is very centrally about the revolution and about the about the hardship of it and the grimness of it. It is very violent in certain aspects. It is filled with ghosts, symbolically and physically. There are several actual ghosts in the book, and I think that puts some people off with the magical realism aspects of this book, but I felt that it was a very effective way of telling the story, of showing the way that the trauma of the revolution were a almost physical burden on the people living through it. And I think it is combining grimness and an important portrait of the time with beautiful writing, with beautiful imagery that really celebrate the richness, as I said, of the culture, as well as having a very real critical view of what happened and how the country changed. The second recommendation I have is White Blight by Athena Farxad. This has been translated from the Swedish, so I read it in the original. I will put the translator from the Swedish into English in the description as well. And this is a poetry collection. It is talking about inherited trauma in really interesting ways. I think she talks about her parents' struggles and her grandparents' struggles. And I think in particular how you carry all of these things with you, all of the things that you experienced in your home country into the new one, and the struggle both in the sense of what you left behind and what you lost, as well as the burdens of the trauma itself and trying to build a new future as an adult. Lastly, I have Brown Album by Poroshista Khakpur, and this is an essay collection. It talks about being of two cultures in general and the struggles in fitting into either one of those. It talks about racism in the US context. It talks about Iranians in the US in terms of pop culture and that kind of thing. But I think the most important thing to me in this collection is the way she highlights the problematic aspect of the West being the lens through which Iran is seen. That the Western lens is not neutral in this relationship, and it's so important to remember the fact that the people who are shaping the story from the West, they have their own reasons for portraying Iran in a particular way, and it has been a problem for a long time, not least in the aftermath of the 9/11 attack. And so I think that is so important to bear in mind, and this collection, I felt, really showed that so clearly and gave very clear examples of when this becomes an issue. So those are the ones I wanted to recommend. I just wanted to briefly mention the books that I am planning to read. So I have already started reading Lolita in Tehran. That is by Azar Nafisi, and this is a book where a teacher starts a secret reading group with a few young women, and they are reading books that are banned and discussing them and engaging with them. And in doing so, they are engaging with the state that they are living in and all of the restrictions on their lives, on their freedom. I have ordered Farxad's poetry collection, Let Us Believe in the Beginning of the Cold Season. And she was a very celebrated poet. And this collection is published by New Directions earlier this year, which I've been meaning to read for a long time now. I have also ordered Dying in a Mother Tongue by Roya Shamankar and translated by Blake Atwood. This is another poetry collection. I don't really know what these two collections are about specifically, but I assume that they will talk about the political landscape, at least. This one says that it is this collection of poetry by a celebrated southern Iranian poet and filmmaker introduces English-speaking readers to one of the most accomplished and well-loved poets of her generation. Shamankar's work blends surrealism and the southern coastal landscape of the poet upbringing with everyday experiences in rapidly urbanizing Tehran. Shamankar infuses this tradition with concern unique to a generation that grew up in post-revolutionary Iran and endured the effects of the Iran-Iraq War. So it seems like it's a blend of both personal and political or more societal themes. And lastly, I have also ordered The Shipwrecked, Contemporary Stories by Women from Iran, and this was edited by Fereshte Norei Simon. And this one says, a collection of short stories by Iranian women writers that capture the fear, defiance, and enduring struggle of life under an oppressive regime. So those are just a few of the books that I am planning to read, as I said, in the next few months. I have some others from the diaspora writers that I mentioned earlier on my shelves that I will definitely be reading, and some others I want to pick up in the near future. So, as I said, I would love to see more people join me in this reading project. If you do so, please let me know. I would love to hear about what you are reading, and I would love to see more people celebrate these women writers that have honestly written against the odds. That was all I wanted to say today. I hope you are doing well and you're taking care of yourselves, and I will talk to you soon.